Part 64. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 631. Could it be that you are anemic? I stabilized the stairs and went downstairs slowly. While having breakfast, the whole person was still feeling very uncomfortable, groggy, and had poor appetite. Musi hesitated. Why don't she ask for leave today? After thinking about it, there are only a few days left in the semester, let's go. The driver sent Musi to school, and Musi fell asleep in the car for a short time, and when he got off the car, the discomfort disappeared. Maybe it's anemia. She didn't take this matter to heart, went to and from school normally, and prepared for the exam seriously. However, the feeling of drowsiness similar to anemia always comes and goes, and the body seems to become weak. Musi attributes this change to the fact that he has been studying too hard recently. She adjusted her schedule and went to bed earlier at night, but with little effect. A few days later, it was the day of the final exam. And after the exam, it's summer vacation. For other students, summer vacation means relaxation, but Musi couldn't relax, and finally passed the final exam. In the next time, she must fully prepare for the judicial examination in October. Considering that after the school term starts in September, there will be many activities in the school, and the homework will be more intense, so these 2 months of summer vacation are very important to Musi. The passing rate of the national judicial examination is less than 2%, which shows how difficult it is. Even if she passed it once, she is not absolutely sure of passing it a second time. The subjects of the examination include constitutional law, civil law, criminal law, as well as optional subjects such as administrative law and commercial law. The interview will also examine the candidate's ethics, professional knowledge, and their application ability, expression ability, etc. Most candidates will prepare for this for at least a year, but Musi's time is only 2 or 3 months. It made her feel urgent. I want to devote all my energy to preparing for the exam, but my body seems to be overwhelmed. The strange thing is that as long as I leave home, the situation can be improved. Musi simply went to the school library to review. I go out before 8 o'clock every morning, go home at 9 o'clock in the evening, wash and rest when I get home, and go to bed at 10 o'clock. Sometimes Bai wanted to make some nutritious soup for her, and when she brought it to her room, she found that her daughter had fallen asleep from exhaustion. Bai felt distressed and worried, fearing that Musi would be exhausted after studying like this, but she also knew that every candidate before the exam would not be easy. Finally one day, the worrying thing still happened. Musi had breakfast and went out with her school bag on her back as usual. When she just stepped out of the door, she fell forward and passed out on the ground. When he woke up again, he was already in the hospital. Bai looked at her with red eyes, and said distressedly, "Zizi, what about the judicial exam? It's the same next year, don't suffer like this, Mom is afraid you won't be able to take it." Musi sat up with her head supported, feeling suspicious in her heart. Many students in the library work harder than her. Some students don't go back to rest until 1 o'clock in the morning every day. Why don't they faint? "Mom, what did the doctor say?" Musi asked. Bai shook her head. "I didn't find out the reason. I said that I might be too tired, you can go home to recuperate, or you can choose to stay in the hospital for observation for 2 days. Too tired, Musi was quite speechless. Her body was at the age of vigorous energy, and she was not an old woman in her 70s and 80s. How could she pass out from exhaustion after reading a few books? And she was fine when she was in the library, only when she was at home did she feel uncomfortable. Thinking of going home to recuperate, Musi frowned unknowingly. She didn't want to go back, and when she got home, she began to feel dizzy and uncomfortable again. "Zizi, let's stay in the hospital for observation." "Okay," Bai persuaded, it's better to do further examinations. What Bai Wei said hit Mu Zi's heart. Well, good, she nodded. You can also read and review in the hospital without delay. At this time, the door of the ward was opened, and Murong Cheng walked in. Mu Zi's gaze moved down and landed on a bag of fruit in Murong Cheng's hand. Dragon fruit again. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 632. Mu Zi felt that there was something wrong with Murong Cheng. Every time I go to the hospital, I buy dragon fruit. Although the first time I bought dragon fruit and didn't give it to her to eat, I sent it to Su Xian, but the second time I fed it to her properly, and now it's the third time. On Mu Zi's face, there was a ruthless look of disgust. I thought, doesn't he love me very much? Why don't you know I hate dragon fruit? Probably because her disgusted eyes were too strong, Murong Cheng was a little embarrassed, put the fruit on the table, and said, if you don't want to eat it, just lay it out and watch it. He can't say that he bought it to test her. Bai Wei also felt that Murong Cheng was too careless, so she glanced at him complainingly, and went to buy food for her daughter. She was in a hurry for a moment, forgetting that her departure had clearly given the two of them another chance to be alone. But the siblings haven't seen each other very much recently, and they don't seem to be that bored, and they are in the hospital with doctors and nurses coming in and out, so it shouldn't matter, right? Murong Cheng did restrain himself a bit, but it wasn't because he changed his mind, but because he was concerned about Mu Zi's body, so he didn't make trouble with her. He dragged a chair and sat in front of the hospital bed, and asked Mu Zi what was going on recently. Ever since Mu Zi started studying day and night, Murong Cheng had a hard time seeing her, so he didn't know what happened to her health recently. Maybe it's because I'm too tired, I don't know, Mu Zi sighed, deeply feeling the regret that her grand ideal was dragged down by her body. Do you think I should find an old Chinese doctor to recuperate? Mu Zi said depressedly, it's fine outside, but when I go home, I start to feel uncomfortable, drowsy and uncomfortable. Murong Cheng's eyes flickered slightly, really? Bai Wei quickly bought the fruit and returned to the ward. Just as she put the fruit down, Murong Cheng got up to leave. Huh? You just came here. Bai Wei was stunned for a moment. Murong Cheng stepped forward with his long legs, and he was already out the door. Bai Wei stared blankly at the door, feeling a little disappointed for some reason. Her mentality is really contradictory. Her son is intimate with her daughter, she is terrified, her son is indifferent to her daughter, and she is a little unhappy. When Murong Cheng got into the car, Wang Zhan at the front asked concerned, Miss Mu, is everything okay? Murong Cheng frowned and didn't answer, sitting in the car with a gloomy face, as if he was thinking about something. Wang Zhan didn't dare to ask more questions, and sat obediently in front and waited. After a while, Murong Cheng suddenly said, go to Du house. Wang Zhan was surprised. The first thought in his mind was that there was something wrong with Mu Zi's soul. Otherwise, why did you suddenly want to find Du Hao's magic stick? Seeing that Murong Cheng's expression was not good, Wang Zhan knew that it was not the time to ask carefully, so he hurriedly started the car and went to Du Hao's company. Du Hao's company is called Yuan Feng Shui Numerology Company, and Wang Zhan went there for the first time. In the past, people were called over directly, but this time, Murong Cheng was probably too anxious and came directly to the door. The company's address is in the business circle of the city center. It's very tall and tall. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary white-collar company, but the decoration is more exquisite. There are many antiques and crystals on display. The place where the entrance is dedicated to the statue of Sanking Tianzun. Murong Cheng was invited into the VIP room by Du Hao and received him personally. Wang Zhan was also bored watching outside, looking around from time to time. There is an office next to it, where many employees are sitting, and there is a computer in front of each of them. Among them is a young white-collar worker who is showing customers palm reading through video. He said, "Miss, you are very fierce peach blossom evil, you must use talisman paper to block it, otherwise it may affect the good relationship behind you." The customer asked how to sell the talisman paper, and the white-collar worker immediately introduced to her the different effects of the talisman paper at different prices. His tone was almost the same as Du Hao's. Wang Zhan felt that he had fallen into a pyramid scheme, which was terrible. However, thinking of the copper coin that blocked the bullet for him last time, he was a little moved again. Do you want to buy some evil products? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 633. Wang Zhan walked around Du Hao's company. When I saw a pair of Nanmu bracelets, I thought it was good, and when I saw a white jade safety card, I thought it was good, and then I saw an iron lump. In the exquisite glass window, all the treasures are displayed, and it is impossible to put a piece of garbage here for no reason. Wang Zhan took a closer look, saw the string of countless zeros on the label of the iron lump, and took a breath. Really expensive. So expensive, and so odd-looking, it must be an incredible item. Wang Zhan waved, called a small employee who worked in the company, and asked what it was. The clerk smiled and said, "Do you know Hao Yi?" Wang Zhan frowned, "I know. Hao Yi is good at bows and arrows. This is the arrow he used. It is as strong as the sun, and it can ward off evil spirits." Wang Zhan. He wanted to ask, "Do you think I look like 205? Hao Yi shot the sun, that is a character in mythology." Wang Zhan asked, "Do you sell Chang'e?" The clerk was a little embarrassed and replied, "Sir, we don't have Chang'e here, but Hao Yi's things are real." Hao Yi was the leader of the Yakshan clan of the Dong'ai tribe in the Xia dynasty. Many of his funeral objects were scattered overseas. The arrow was taken back by our boss with great difficulty. I see. Wang Zhan rubbed his chin and thought, sure enough, I still need to study more. It seems that the decision to send my nephew to a military management school is very correct. At this time, Du Hao opened the door and came out, and asked someone to fetch his compass. It seemed that he had finished chatting with Murong Cheng and was going to visit Murong's house. Wang Zhan approached with a smile on his face, and asked Du Hao, "Boss Du, can you give me a discount on this arrow?" Du Hao was stunned for a moment, and asked, "What does manager Xiao Wang buy this for?" Going out, there will inevitably be 3 disasters and 5 disasters. Wang Zhan smiled meanly, besides, the copper coin last time was no longer usable, so I have to buy something new. Oh, that's it. Du Hao smiled and said, "The arrow, manager Xiao Wang probably won't need it, I'll give you something else." Du Hao took out a bunch of copper coins from the bottom of the glass cabinet and stuffed them into Wang Zhan's hands. At a cursory glance, there are about 30 coins, which are heavy and full of weight. Wang Zhan was silent. He hesitated for a moment, then asked, will it be too heavy?" Du Hao said, "It's not too heavy, remember to keep it close to you, even if you lose one, the effect will be greatly reduced." Wang Zhan. A copper coin helped him block a bullet once, and these more than 30 coins, are they trying to beat him into a sieve? While talking, Du Hao's compass and outfit were ready, and he called 2 mages with beards to follow Murong Cheng to Mu's house. Right now, of course, the matter of Master Rong is more important. Wang Zhan didn't want to ask too many questions, so he put the whole string of copper coins in his trouser pocket and hurriedly followed. The copper coins were too heavy, and his stride was too big, which hurt his legs. When they arrived at Mu's house, Du Hao and the 2 mages walked around a small western building. Wang Zhan waited beside Murong Cheng, watching these nagging people busy in a fog. The two elderly mages seemed to have some posture, but the way Du Hao held the compass was awkward no matter how you looked at it, like a man in a suit and leather shoes holding up a rosary to recite Ba. It was so weird. Wang Zhan pinched the copper coins in his trouser pocket silently, half believing. I thought to myself, will this free gadget work? Was Du Hao really playing tricks on him? Du Hao on the other end was discussing something with the mage, pointing at the nearby trees from time to time, but he didn't know what he was talking about. After waiting for this group of people for a long time, Wang Zhan quickly raised his spirits and listened carefully. There is good news and bad news, Du Hao said with a smile. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 634. Murong Cheng frowned upon hearing this. Let's talk about the bad news first. Before we wanted to gather yin energy, so we set up the formation of the 5 yins. Now it is extremely yin, and it has become a place of evil. Miss Mu will feel uncomfortable because of her sensitive constitution. After a long time, you and your wife will also be sick for a long time. Du Hao explained, we researched it, and it should be because someone died here, and it only happened when the yin qi was aggravated. People did die nearby. The man who climbed Mu Zi's window fell to his death under the window, and the servant who stole the baby during the spring festival drowned in the lake. If he died somewhere else, he would die if he died, but there is a gathering yin formation here, which is dedicated to gathering yin qi, and the heavier the yin qi, the higher the probability of accidents for the living, which can be described as a vicious circle. Murong Cheng didn't care about these things. He frowned and asked, how can I help her recover? Du Hao said, Ms. Mu will feel uncomfortable, which means that she is beginning to feel uncomfortable in the extremely cloudy environment, and her soul has recovered most of it. This is just good news for Master Rong. If she was still a ghost, she would only feel comfortable living in a haunted environment. The expression on Murong Cheng's face was slightly relaxed, and there was a faint smile in his eyes. You mean, she will be like a normal person in the future? She won't leave her body again, Murong Cheng asked. As long as there are no accidents, at most 2 years, it will be successful. In fact, Du Hao felt that 1 year was enough, but in front of Murong Cheng, he didn't dare to talk too much. The method passed down from his ancestors finally worked. Du Hao was in a good mood with a warm smile on his face. Next, the mage performed rituals here, and then Murong Cheng sent people to cut down trees. Cut down 2 trees first, and then cut down 2 trees after half a year, step by step Du Hao instructed. Murong Cheng led the people to toss around in the garden, felling trees and doing things, making a lot of noise, arguing with Murong Xian in the study. What are you going to do again? Murong Xian opened the window and looked over there, his face full of irritability. The sound of the chainsaw made him restless, so he walked out of the study to ask the servant. The servant replied, the 4th young master said that someone died in the lake last time, so we should do something to ensure safety. Murong Xian didn't say anything on the face, but he was scolding in his heart, how long ago did that happen, and now I think of doing something. What an afterthought. Nothing to worry about. After scolding Murong Cheng, he thought of Mu Zhenning again, who was idle at home and tossing about, while not doing serious things, and went out for a trip. Murong Xian couldn't think about it. He became anxious when he thought about it. The company's affairs can be handed over to the senior leaders, but people can't suddenly disappear. They sent a message back in the first week, and then there was no news in the next 2 or 3 months. If this died outside, I'm afraid no one in the family would know about it. Unlike Murong Cheng, Murong Xian cared very much about himself as the 3rd brother. At this time, Mu Yun came to the study to look for Murong Xian. Dad. Mu Yun hesitated to speak. Before Mu Yun could speak, Mu Rongxian immediately interrupted her irritably, you want money again, right? Your third uncle hasn't come back for months, where can I get you money? Xiao Yun, you've grown up, don't always compare yourself with others, it's not a good thing for girls to be too vain. Mu Yun's face was slightly stiff, a little ugly. Mu Rongxian sighed, remembering that he had already lost a daughter, and now only Mu Yun is still promising. He could not help but slow down his tone, and persuaded again, you should study hard, and when you graduate in the future, join the Muse group to help your third uncle. Being busy is better than anything else. After he finished speaking, he probably thought the house was noisy, so he shook his head and left. Mu Yun looked at the back of her father walking away, bit her lip, and choked back her words. Today, she didn't come to ask for money. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 635. Mu Zi stayed in the hospital for 3 days, Mu Rongcheng visited her on the first day, and never went to the hospital after that. Bai Wei complained about this, wondering if Mu Rongcheng hooked up with other girls outside. It's really because Mu Rongcheng's reputation has always been too bad. Even if it has improved in the past 6 months, Bai Wei can't help thinking about it. Although she was dissatisfied with her son's flamboyance, but at least her daughter's reputation was preserved, Bai Wei secretly heaved a sigh of relief. After the mother and daughter returned home, Mu Zi found that 2 trees near the small mansion were gone, replaced by 2 clusters of rose bushes. The leaves of the roses were still wilting, obviously not long after they were planted. Bai Wei complained beside her, at the beginning I told him not to plant trees, not only to block the sight, but also to block the sun. He didn't listen, but now that summer is here, when the shade of trees is needed, he cut down the trees again. Mu Zi listened silently, pursing her lips and smiling. Although she doesn't know the purpose of planting and cutting trees, Mu Zi has an intuition that it must be related to her. Thinking about how tolerant this person is, he has never mentioned the matter of saving her, but has been silently guarding her. Why is Mu Rongcheng so selfless? Humph, he's not selfless, he's the best at repaying favors. Mu Zi's thoughts turned and turned, for some reason, she missed him a little bit. She went back to her room and called Mu Rongcheng while Bai Wei was away. The phone was connected, and there was a commotion on the other end, and the sound of the radio was heard amidst the noise. Mu Zi was stunned, and asked strangely, are you at the airport? Well, I'm here to see off Huolin and Sarah, Mu Rongcheng said. The original plan was for the 4 of them to go to France together, but Musa suddenly fell ill and the plan died. Only Huolin and Sarah returned to France as planned to raise their babies. Mu Zi thought of Mu Rongcheng saying that he was going to France to register for marriage, but now that he can't go, would he be very irritable? Haha. It's really strange, why does she gloat when she thinks of Mu Rongcheng being furious? When are you coming back? Mu Zi asked him. There was a smile in Mu Rongcheng's voice, miss me? Mu Zi stood by the window, looking down, the 2 clusters of rose bushes. I didn't notice anything just now, but now looking down from upstairs, I can see that they are 2 heart shapes. One is his and the other is hers. The corners of Mu Zi's mouth could not help but turn up, with a sweet smile. I don't miss you, she laughed. Zizi, your mouth is dishonest, Mu Rongcheng said. Mu Zi retorted, you are dishonest all over. From the other end of the phone, there was Mu Rongcheng's low laughter, warm and deep, which penetrated into Mu Zi's ears, making her cheeks feel hot. I won't tell you anymore, I'm going to read a book. She hung up the phone forcefully with a blushing face, and then covered her hot face, not recovering for a long time. Obviously nothing to talk about. But her reaction was so big. I hate it to death, Mu Zi muttered softly. She didn't know what she was complaining about. Mu Zi read the book all day, took a nap, and was in good condition. She is no longer dizzy. When reading a book, there is a quiet fragrance of roses lingering around her body, sweet, faint, vague, like her mood at the moment. There is an indescribable lightness and erratic. But she knew it must be an illusion. The roses under the window have just been transplanted, and the flower bones have not yet bloomed. How can it be possible to smell the fragrance of flowers? The mood of love is at work. Murong Cheng, retreat, retreat. Concentrate on reading. Mu Zi's heart was agitated. She quickly restrained her mind, and refused to continue being a nymphomaniac. It is forbidden to illegally detain or restrict citizens' personal freedom by other means. Article 38 of the Constitution, the personal dignity of citizens is inviolable. Article 39 of the Constitution. The reciting sound continued in the room. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 636. It began to rain at night, pattering, and occasionally a light breeze blows, and the rain drifts in along the wind, wetting the ground in front of the window. Mu Zi couldn't sleep. She stood by the window, looking at the newly moved rose bushes in the courtyard. The dark green branches and leaves are wet and dripping, and the delicate pink buds are crumbling in the wind and rain. Some of them have been knocked down by the rain, and the petals are colorful and beautiful. Mu Zi was a little worried whether the 2 clusters of transplanted roses would survive. Just as she was thinking, she suddenly saw someone walking slowly with an umbrella in the night. Human feeling is a wonderful thing, and many times it cannot be explained clearly with words. Just like now, there is clearly an umbrella as black as ink, but Mu Zi feels that that person must be Murong Cheng. As if they had a tacit understanding, the other party sensed Mu Zi's gaze, raised his umbrella slightly, and looked up. Murong Cheng under the umbrella smiled at her. Through the light rain and mist, in those deep and evil eyes, there was no usual ruffian, only gentleness and love. Mu Zi stared at him in a daze, her heart beating in a flash. Murong Cheng went to the window, put away the umbrella, casually threw it aside, and climbed up to the small balcony outside the window on the 2nd floor with a few steps. The distance of 5 or 6 meters is as easy as climbing stairs for him. Mu Zi stood in the window. Murong Cheng stood outside the window. She was a little dazed, feeling that the scene was like a dream. The rain slid down his face and wet his hair at the same time. His thick black hair was lying on his forehead, messy and unruly, and his eyes were slightly narrowed, so he was handsome and charming. Mu Zi's heart throbbed, and by some strange coincidence, she leaned out to kiss him. Her soft lips fell firmly on his lips, carrying the coolness of rain. Silently, but like thunder, it exploded in Murong Cheng's mind. He dared not move. Holding the window sill firmly with both hands, the whole person seems to have fallen into the flower field, fascinated by the sweetness, and drowned to death. It was raining non-stop, but neither of them had any intention of taking shelter from the rain. Their lips and teeth were attached to each other, lingering in love. You seduced me after the kiss. Murong Cheng cupped her face and said with a smile, do you know what will happen if you seduce me? Mu Zi avoided his gaze, feeling a little uncomfortable, and said in a buzzing voice, how did you climb up the window? It's not like there's no door. You were standing by the window. I thought you were inviting me. Murong Cheng squeezed her hand tightly, and kissed her twice. Silly thing, go in quickly, don't catch a cold. Mu Zi took a few steps back embarrassingly, reached out to touch it, only to find that the upper body of the nightgown was wet a lot, and her hair was also half dry and half wet. She took off her nightgown and took a clean one out of the closet. Murong Cheng was faster than her, took off his wet clothes in a few strokes, picked up Mu Zi who hadn't had time to put on her nightgown, lay down on the bed together, and hugged her comfortably. Muzi I thought, is this guy going to teach her what the fate of seduction is? However, it was a little unexpected that Murong Chen, who had always been obscene, became a gentleman today, and his warm palms were pressed against her soft abdomen, warm and warm, helping her to keep warm. It's raining and cool today, even if two people hug each other to sleep, they won't sweat profusely from the heat, which is great. Thinking so, Muzi I closed her eyes. On a rainy night, there is a gentle breeze and the familiar fragrance of roses in the cool air. Murong Chen Muzi I called him softly. Murong Chen's breath brushed her ears, numb. Have you smelled the fragrance of flowers? Muzi I asked him, it's very faint, did you smell it? Murong Chen laughed softly, put his lips against her neck, her shoulders, her thick long hair, and kissed, it smells so good. Muzi I was itching to be kissed by him, but her heart was very at ease. It's not my illusion, it really smells like flowers. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 637. Murong Chen had a dream. In the dream, there was a very long red carpet, the surrounding scenery was foggy and he couldn't see clearly, he kept walking along the red carpet, and finally at the end of the red carpet, he saw Muzi I wearing a white gauze. She stood there quietly, with a sweet smile on her face, gentle, beautiful, and a little shy. Murong Chen was ecstatic, and strode over, wanting to hold her hand. However, at this time, a man came from behind him, walked in front, and took Muzi I's hand first. Murong Chen was stunned, it was Mu Zhenning. Mu Zhenning held a wedding ring, slowly put it on Muzi I's finger, and smiled at her. Murong Chen sat up abruptly and woke up instantly. His face was pale, his back was full of cold sweat, he couldn't believe that he dreamed of Mu Zhenning and Muzi I getting married. This feeling is really terrible, even if he knows it's fake, it's unbearable for him. He got up and got out of bed, grabbed the water glass on the bedside cabinet and took a few sips, his heart was still beating violently due to the panic in his dream. For him, this dream was too scary. He couldn't imagine that the woman he got would be snatched away. When Mu Zhenning married Suzy I back then, he was unwilling, but he still kept his sense. After all, at that time, Suzy I didn't have him in his heart. But now, they are already in love with each other, if anyone marry her away at this time, Murong Chen will go crazy. Murong Chen glanced at the sky outside, the rain had stopped, and the hazy night covered the floor like a layer of silver frost, calm and peaceful. He couldn't fall asleep and didn't dare to sleep again. Not wanting to dream of that heart-piercing scene again, I simply got up and leaned against the window to smoke a cigarette to relieve my worries. Musa woke up in a daze, opened her eyes and looked at the slender figure by the window, her voice was lazily and hoarse, "Why don't you sleep?" Murong Chen said softly, "It's nothing, you go to sleep." Musa fell into a drowsy sleep, and didn't know whether she was in a dream or in reality. She turned over, gathered the thin blanket around her body, and muttered, "Didn't you say you're ready to get pregnant?" Then there was no sound, as if falling asleep again. Murong Chen couldn't help laughing, "Yes, I want to get pregnant." The gloom in his heart dissipated a little, he put out the cigarette, went back to the bed, and took her into his arms again. A sleepless night. The next day, Murong Chen ordered Wang Zhan to send someone to find Mu Zhenning's whereabouts. Wang Zhan felt it was very sudden, so he couldn't help asking, "Master Rong, is that third young Master Mu planning something?" Murong Chen shook his head slowly, feeling a little annoyed between his brows. Wang Zhan hesitated for a while, then said, "If this person travels to a big city, he can check the credit card consumption records, and the result will be found, but if he goes to a remote place, I'm afraid it will be difficult to find out his whereabouts." "Let's check first," Murong Chen said. Wang Zhan nodded, "I'll arrange the people below to do it." Wang Zhan turned around and was about to go out. When he walked to the door, his steps faltered, and he came back again. "Master, last time you asked me to check Miss Mu's life experience." Murong Cheng raised his eyes to look at him. "Why, do you have a clue?" "I don't know if it's a clue or not." Wang Zhan was a little uncertain. He took out his mobile phone, called up the web page, opened a man's profile page, and handed it to Murong Cheng. "Miss Mu's biological father, I still haven't found anything, but the presidential election is coming soon. I found this in the list of candidates." The page displayed a man's face, about 40 years old, with deep and wise eyes, elegant and handsome. His facial features were vaguely similar to Mu's eyes. "I look very similar to Miss Mu, and my age is right, and..." Wang Zhan pointed to the man's name. "It's from the Sidhu family. The man who eloped with Ruan Li was also named Si, is it? However, it may also be a coincidence. The information shows that he was still serving in the army 20 years ago, so it is impossible for him to come to Xinjiang. The world is so big, there are so many wonders, similar looks mean nothing. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 638. Murong Cheng looked at the faces on the phone and didn't speak for a long time. "It does look a bit like. It's just that one is an ordinary female student, and the other is an important presidential candidate. They are so different that it is really hard for people to associate them. Besides, judging from this information, the other party has never been to Xinjiang, so how could he know Ruan Li? Si and Sidhu, these two surnames are also very different. Maybe it's a coincidence." Murong Cheng didn't want this man to be Mu Zi's father. The Sidhu family was a prominent family in the north. Unlike businessmen like them, the descendants of the Sidhu family either joined the army or entered politics. Soldiers have strong confidence, and politicians are cunning. No matter what kind, it will be very troublesome to deal with. Murong Cheng thought again, if Mu Zi is really a child of Sidhu's family, the other party probably won't want to have an extra daughter out of thin air, right? At the critical moment of the general election, the scandal of an illegitimate daughter will not only lose public opinion, but also cause Mu Zi to be used by political opponents. After Murong Cheng thought for a while, he thought clearly. The Sidhu family was too complicated for Mu Zi to settle down. He returned the phone to Wang Zhan, and said, "There's no need to check her life experience. Go to another place and rearrange her identity. It's best if the whole family is dead. There is no trace to check, so as not to be found out. In this way, even if one day in the future, people from the Sidhu family came to the door, Murong Cheng could use this as an excuse to refuse the other party to take Mu Zi away." After Mu Zi was discharged from the hospital, she didn't go to the library anymore. Instead she read and reviewed at home every day without going out. The 2 clusters of roses that were transplanted were raised, and after a few days, the flower buds bloomed one after another, and the flower branches were beautiful, elegant, and fragrant. One day, Zhuang Jia called her and asked her to go out to play, saying that Wang Zilong was back and everyone had a get-together. Mu Zi asked about the time and place, and went to the appointment the next day. It's not easy for Wang Zilong to come out. I heard that his school is very strict. This summer vacation is only 2 weeks off. The rest of the time he has to attend the summer camp organized by the school. Therefore, no matter how busy Mu Zi is, she still has to find time to meet up with her friends. They met at SeaWorld Park in Xinjiang City. When Mu Zi arrived, there was an elementary school summer activity next to her. The teacher led a group of elementary school students to walk in. Each elementary school student wore a little yellow hat on his head, which looked like the teacher leading a group of ducklings. Very lively. "Why did you choose here?" Mu Zi was puzzled, and called Zhuang Jia, "When will you arrive? There are many elementary school students here." Are we here to relive our childhood? Zhuang Jia said on the phone, "Ah, I saw you." Then hung up the phone. As soon as Mu Ziyi raised her head again, she saw Zhuang Jia wearing a wide-brimmed hat and sunglasses from the crowd of Zixi. Zhuang Jia, who doesn't wear a school uniform, dresses up completely according to her heart, fashionable and beautiful, like a model. She trotted towards Mu Ziyi, panting. "Where are Wang Zilong and Xinyuan?" Zhuang Jia asked pantingly, "Have they arrived yet?" "I didn't see it." Mu Ziyi shook her head, looked down at the time, "It should be almost here." Just as he was talking, he saw Zhang Xinyuan also coming. After doing this calculation, only Wang Zilong was left. "It's too rude to ask the lady to wait for him," Zhuang Jia complained immediately, and took out her mobile phone to call Wang Zilong. There was also a noisy voice on the other end of the phone, and Wang Zilong shouted with difficulty, "I've arrived a long time ago. I'm queuing up to buy tickets." The three girls looked around the line for buying tickets, from the beginning to the end, and from the end to the beginning, and finally found the figure of Wang Zilong. They laughed together. "Wang Zilong, what kind of look do you have?" Wang Zilong's hair was cut to a square inch, with a plaid shirt on top and denim trousers on the bottom. There were no holes in the pants, and he even wore a pair of glasses. He was very elegant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 639. 2 chapters combined into one chapter, so the price is doubled, sorry. Wang Zilong's current appearance may be nothing to others, but he is Wang Zilong. In the entire Grey International School, the only boy who can wear the school uniform in a hip-hop style. What is it today? Mu Ziyi sighed, it seems that the new school has successfully transformed you. She can understand cutting her hair short and changing her clothes, but what about the glasses? Mu Ziyi squinted her eyes to take a closer look, and couldn't help but roll her eyes when she saw it clearly, because the glasses only had a black frame. "Hey, what are you doing?" Zhuang Jia snatched his glasses frame first, and laughed, "You want to pretend to be an intellectual." Wang Zilong was slightly annoyed, and took it back, "I'm here to modify the shape of my face." Zhuang Jia smiled and said, "Well, it's not bad, it does look a little handsome after wearing it." When Wang Zilong heard this, his face showed embarrassment. Not long after, Zhuang Jia hit him again, "But why do you have to queue up to buy tickets? Don't you know that you can buy tickets on your mobile phone? After staying in the mountains for a few months, you will become a primitive person?" Ha 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 ha. Wang Zilong was embarrassed, and rubbed his nose. "You can't use your mobile phone at school, it was confiscated as soon as you entered it, and you only returned it after the holiday. I forgot that there is also the function of online ticket purchase." Everyone laughed again. After Wang Zilong bought the tickets, the four of them smiled and squeezed into the SeaWorld Park, surrounded by primary school students. Their age seemed to have suddenly become younger. When visiting the Penguin Pavilion, Wang Zilong squeezed close to Zhuang Jia and Mu Ziyi, and discussed, "Do me a favor and pretend to be separated for a while, okay? I'll treat you to dinner later." Wang Zilong wanted to create an opportunity to be alone with Zhang Xinyuan. Zhuang Jia rolled her eyes and disagreed, "That's not okay, aren't you encouraging us to lie to Xinyuan together? Don't be like this, friends, please help me." Wang Zilong begged them with a shy face. Mu Ziyi also felt that something was wrong. "Xinyuan is also our friend, so it's not appropriate to lie to another friend for the sake of one friend." Wang Zilong severely criticized them, "Are there any of you who are like sisters? You are delaying her happiness." Mu Ziyi and Zhuang Jia scoffed. Wang Zilong left resentfully, and ran to talk to Zhang Xinyuan. Mu Ziyi pulled Zhuang Jia, and asked in a low voice, "Is he really here?" "Isn't it?" Zhuangjie also murmured to her, "the last time I went to Doshui village, it was he who wanted to go with him. He had planned for Xingyuan for a long time. The vacation is so short, and he finally came back. Take the initiative to fight for it." "I thought he came back to catch up with us, but it turned out to be to pick up girls," Musa said contemptuously. "He's using the two of us as a shield." If Zhuangjie and Mu Ziyi hadn't been invited, would Zhang Xinyuan have come out to attend the appointment? Obviously not. Huh, Zhuangjie was suddenly surprised. Where are they? Mu Ziyi turned to look. Wang Zilong and Zhang Xinyuan were gone. "This guy actually tricked Xinyuan away," Zhuangjie scolded angrily. "Having the opposite sex is not human." Mu Ziyi was also speechless, and patted Zhuangjie on the shoulder. "Let's go, let's look for it." The two searched around the penguin house, but they didn't look at the figures of Wang Zilong and Zhang Xinyuan. They were both angry and funny. "Forget it, let's take a break." Zhuangjie had no choice but to pull Mu Ziyi to the bench next to him, and sat down to rest. "How dare you leave us behind? I must let him know how powerful I am." Zhuangjie said to Mu Ziyi, "Let's introduce a boyfriend to Jinuan. Wang Zilong is mad at me, how about it?" Mu Ziyi laughed loudly, and gave her a light slap. "Don't make trouble. If Aunt Zhang finds out, we're all doomed." "I know, just talking about it casually." Zhuangjie sighed. "I don't know what he's up to, and Xinyuan doesn't like him, so he insists on pestering him." Speaking of this, Mu Ziyi also felt strange. At the beginning, she saw Zhuangjie and Wang Zilong quarreling together, and thought it was fun and a good match, but suddenly changing the role to Zhang Xinyuan, it was a bit unimaginable. The two really didn't look like the same person. Zhang Xinyuan is a good girl from a scholarly family. Her father is a diplomat, her mother is a professor, and her elder brother is a foreign language teacher. The whole family is full of books. But Wang Zilong has the vibe of a street gangster from head to toe. Although the transformed image barely passed the test, he was still essentially a person from two worlds. The most important thing is that Zhang Xinyuan did not reveal any strange feelings for Wang Zilong at all. Mu Ziyi felt that Wang Zilong's love life would probably be very bumpy. Mu Ziyi and Zhuangjie sat on the bench for a while, and when they received a call from Zhang Xinyuan, they anxiously asked where they were. Zhuangjie said the location, and not long after, Zhang Xinyuan and Wang Zilong came back. They held ice cream and big cotton candy, and other snacks. Zhang Xinyuan said, "Wang Zilong and I went to buy food, and we won't be able to find you when we come back. Eat quickly, the ice cream is almost melting." Zhuangjie and Mu Ziyi looked at each other, tacitly did not expose Wang Zilong's trick. After that, Zhuangjie seemed to be deliberately against Wang Zilong, holding Zhang Xinyuan's arm the whole time, refusing Wang Zilong to approach, and finally developed into three girls strolling in front, and Wang Zilong was reduced to carrying bags and walking behind. Mu Ziyi ate, drank, and had fun with them. The whole process was both helpless and funny, but this was also the most relaxing day of her entire summer vacation. After playing until after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Zhang Xinyuan had to leave early. "I took my piano to be repaired last week, and I have to get it today. If I go late, the piano shop should be closed," Zhang Xinyuan explained. Wang Zilong immediately volunteered, "I'll take you there." "You don't know the way." Zhuangjie didn't want him to be proud. She pulled Zhang Xinyuan and said, "I'll accompany Xinyuan, I often go to that piano shop." "Wang Zilong, you can take Mu Ziyi back." Wang Zilong said, "I can send Jinuan to the piano shop first, and then send Mu Ziyi home. There are too many people around here, so it's hard to catch a taxi. Besides, didn't Jinuan say that the door will close if you go late?" Sipalilian refused to go first. The last three girls got into Wang Zilong's Bumblebee sports car. Mu Ziyi smiled and said, "Wang Zilong, why didn't you modify the car as well?" Now this car obviously doesn't match your temperament. Wang Zilong immediately asked, Zhinyuan, what kind of car do you like? Zhang Zhinyuan was taken aback by his question, huh? Zhuang Jiabud, what are you doing? Do you want to send a car? Zhinyuan's favorite car is the #1 bronze carriage of Qin Shi Huang's terracotta warriors and horses. It is worth 10 billion. Go buy it, buy it. Wang Zilong said angrily, I won't take you out to play next time. Muzi I smoothed things over and changed the topic. I think Mini is good, suitable for girls to drive. Jinuan, you can consider it when you get a driver's license in the future. It's so small, what's the point? Zhuangjia urged Zhang Zhinyuan, buy a Ferrari, the red one is so beautiful. Zhang Zhinyuan turned to Muzi and asked, what about you? What car do you plan to buy? Muzi I covered her mouth and laughed straight, pink, Hummer. Along the way, I was laughing and joking in the car, chatting about what kind of car to buy in the future, and I arrived at the piano store before I knew it. After several people got out of the car, Zhuangjia was happy again, pointed to Wang Zilong not far away and said, Wang Zilong, is this your brother? Wang Zilong saw that it was a Bugatti Veyron, which happened to be the drift in Transformers, and his Bumblebee belonged to the customized models in the Transformers series. The people in Xinjiang City who can afford this type of car can be counted on 2 hands. There should be distinguished guests in the piano store. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 640. Walking into the piano shop, Muzi I immediately saw the second young master of the Gu family, Gu Yan. After the last kidnapping incident, he was tightly controlled by Gu Liang, and he stopped being drunk and dreaming every day, and gradually began to contact the industries of Gu's group. Gu Liang probably meant to cultivate his younger brother. Although Gu Yan did not do it smoothly, he had a serious job anyway, and he was not as muddle-headed as before. When Gu Yan saw Muzi I, he was very enthusiastic and immediately came over to say hello, Miss Mu, are you here to buy a piano too? I came with a friend, Muzi I replied with a smile. Coincidentally, I also came with a friend. Gu Yan raised his chin to the side, motioned Muzi I to look at the woman over there, and lowered his voice a little, there is a distinguished guest from Jingling, my brother asked me to take care of her for a few days. Good for her, make sure to let the distinguished guests eat and have fun. Muzi I couldn't help laughing, and said, leave this matter to the second young master, so you've found the right person. When it comes to eating, drinking and having fun, who can compare to Gu Shao? It can be seen that Gu Liang made the best use of everything. Gu Yan was also quite proud, and said with a smile, I celebrate my birthday next week, Miss Mu, remember to come and play then. He looked at the people behind Muzi again, and said, call your friends when the time comes, the more people the better, it's lively. While speaking, he took out a stack of business cards from his pocket and sent them to Wang Zilong and others one by one. 6 o'clock on Saturday night, every 6 and 6 are going well, come here. Gu Yan warmly greeted Muzi I and her friends. At this time, the woman who was picking the gherkin over there saw Gu Yan chatting here, so she also came over and asked with a faint smile, second young master, your friend. Gu Yan introduced, this is Muzi I, last time I got into a lawsuit, thanks to her helping me, I'm inviting them to a birthday party next week. Then she introduced to Muzi I, this is Ning Yue. Her uncle is a member of the National Congress. Yue just came from Jingling City and is going to buy some gifts to bring back. This introduction is somewhat intriguing. Under normal circumstances, when young men and women introduce each other, they will say which school they graduated from, and if their parents are some famous person, they will also mention by the way that there is only one possibility to move their uncle out like this, and that is Ning Yue's uncle, not only a senator in Congress, but a core member of it. Muzi I's eyes fell on Ning Yue in front of her. Her facial features are exquisite and bright, her clothes are elegant and dignified, and there is always a slight smile in her beautiful eyes. She seems friendly, but actually has a sense of alienation. This sense of alienation made her look a little more aloof and mysterious, making her an awe-inspiring beauty. While Mu Zi was looking at Ning Yue was also looking at her. Miss Mu doesn't seem to be very old, so she can go to court. Ning Yue smiled slightly, showing surprise. Xinjiang is really a place where talented people come forth. If Miss Mu comes to Jingling to develop in the future, maybe we will meet again. She praised Mu Zi in a calm tone, imperceptibly with a sense of superiority, as if Mu Zi's greatest future is to leave Xinjiang and go to Jingling. It's just that the feeling is so slight that it's hard to notice if you don't listen carefully. Mu Zi smiled. It doesn't matter to her, since she is not familiar with this woman anyway, she doesn't care what the other party thinks. Ning Yue was even more astonished in her heart, thinking, this girl is so arrogant, she is not even modest. It can be seen that she is a frog in the bottom of the well. She thinks she is famous in Xinjiang city, so she is crazy. Sooner or later, there will be a fall.